Hi, welcome back to my channel. In this video we will explore a compelling scenario of Russia's disintegration. We will dive into the key events that will lead to such a dramatic shift, including the impact of economic collapse, regional uprising, and the fate of Russia's vast nuclear arsenal.
In recent years, the Russian Federation has faced an increasing array of challenges that have tested its unity and stability. While the prospect of Russia's disintegration doesn't seem far-fetched, geopolitical dynamics, internal dissent, and economic strain have started setting the stage for a seismic shift in the nation's structure. Let's explore a possible scenario in which Russia fractures into multiple entities, examining the key events and actors who might play a role in this process. The catalyst for Russia's disintegration comes in the form of an economic collapse triggered by the ongoing war in Ukraine, coupled with severe international sanctions. A significant contributing factor to this economic downfall is Ukraine's relentless drone attacks on Russia's oil refinery industry. These attacks cripple the infrastructure that underpins a substantial portion of Russia's economy, leading to a sharp reduction in oil exports, Russia's primary source of revenue. As the war drags on and the impact of these drone strikes becomes more severe, Russia's economy is further isolated from the global financial system. The lack of access to US dollars and euros, exacerbated by increasing restrictions on Russian energy exports, causes a sharp decline in government revenues. Despite the efforts of Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin and Finance Minister Anton Siluanov to stabilize the economy, the ruble plummets, inflation skyrockets, and basic goods become scarce. Public discontent begins to boil over, particularly in regions that have long felt neglected by Moscow's central government. As the economic situation worsens, regional leaders begin to distance themselves from the Kremlin. In the Far East, former Khabarovsk governor Mikhail Degtyarev, already emboldened by his previous clashes with the central government, declares the region's autonomy. His move is swiftly followed by similar declarations in Siberia and the Caucasus, where leaders like Chechen President Ramzan Kadyrov sense an opportunity to secure greater power for themselves. In Tatarstan, President Rustam Minnikhanov, long a proponent of regional rights, declares the republic's independence, citing the federal government's failure to provide adequate support during the economic crisis. These declarations of autonomy are met with a heavy-handed response from the Kremlin, but the Russian military, already stretched thin by the conflict in Ukraine and plagued by low morale, struggles to maintain control. As separatist movements gain momentum, President Vladimir Putin faces growing dissent within his own government. Defense Minister Andrei Belousov, frustrated by the continued failures in Ukraine and the growing unrest at home, begins to distance himself from Putin. He quietly forms alliances with other powerful figures within the security apparatus, including Federal Security Service FSB Director Alexander Bortnikov and Chief of the General Staff Valery Gerasimov. In a dramatic turn of events, a coup is staged by these disillusioned members of the military and security services. Putin, isolated and increasingly paranoid, is placed under house arrest. In a hastily arranged press conference, Belousov announces that the president has stepped down due to health reasons and declares a state of emergency. However, the damage has already been done. The power vacuum left by Putin's fall only accelerates the disintegration of the Russian Federation. In the chaos that follows Putin's removal, regions across Russia declare their independence. The Republic of Siberia, led by Novosibirsk governor Andrei Travnikov, emerges as a powerful new state with control over vast natural resources. In the North Caucasus, Kadyrov declares the formation of the Chechen Emirate, while Tatarstan and Bashkortostan form a confederation of Turkic states. Moscow, now a city-state governed by a provisional government led by former Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev, struggles to assert its authority beyond the capital's borders. The Russian Federation, as the world once knew it, ceases to exist. In its place is a patchwork of independent states, each with its own government, military, and economy. The disintegration of Russia sends shock waves around the globe. In Europe, NATO countries scramble to secure their borders and prevent the spread of instability. China, long wary of a powerful Russia on its northern border, moves swiftly to establish influence in Siberia, securing access to its vast resources. The United States, while welcoming the end of Russian aggression, is forced to navigate the complex new geopolitical landscape, balancing support for newly independent states with the need to prevent further conflict. Within the former Russian territories, the transition to independence is far from smooth. Ethnic tensions flare and border disputes lead to sporadic clashes between the new states. However, for many regions, the fall of the Kremlin offers a long-awaited opportunity to build a future free from Moscow's control. As the Russian Federation disintegrates, one of the foremost concerns for the international community is the fate of Russia's vast nuclear arsenal. With the central government in Moscow losing control over large swaths of the country, the risk of nuclear weapons falling into the hands of rogue states or non-state actors becomes alarmingly high. The possibility of loose nukes, unsecured nuclear weapons, sparks a global crisis, with world leaders scrambling to prevent a potential catastrophe. In response to these mounting concerns, the United Nations, in collaboration with the International Atomic Energy Agency (IAEA), moves swiftly to establish a special unit dedicated to securing and controlling Russia's nuclear arsenal. This unit, dubbed the International Nuclear Security Task Force (INSTEF), is formed through an emergency resolution passed by the UN Security Council, with broad support from both Western and Eastern powers. Securing nuclear facilities. The first priority is to secure Russia's nuclear facilities, including missile silos, submarines, and storage depots. To achieve this, the task force coordinates with remaining elements of the Russian military who are still loyal to the central government, as well as regional leaders who have declared autonomy but are concerned about the broader implications of uncontrolled nuclear weapons. The ISTF undertakes a massive effort to account for every nuclear warhead, missile, and related materials across the former Russian territories. With the cooperation of the IAEA, they use satellite surveillance, on-the-ground inspections, and intelligence from former Russian officials to create an accurate inventory of Russia's nuclear assets. To prevent the spread of nuclear weapons and materials to hostile entities, the ISF establishes strict controls and monitoring systems. They also engage in diplomatic negotiations with the leaders of newly independent regions, offering economic and security incentives in exchange for their cooperation in handing over nuclear assets to international control. Recognizing the need to reduce the overall number of nuclear weapons, the task force begins the process of safely decommissioning and disposing of warheads, particularly those located in unstable or contested regions. This effort is supported by a coalition of nuclear-armed states, including the United States, China, and European powers, who provide technical expertise and financial support. The creation of the ISTF marks an unprecedented level of international cooperation. Despite their differences, global powers recognize the shared threat posed by the potential proliferation of Russian nuclear weapons. Even countries that traditionally align with Moscow, such as China and India, join the effort, understanding that the collapse of Russia's central authority represents a clear and present danger to global security. However, the operation is not without its challenges. Some regional leaders resist international oversight, viewing it as an infringement on their newfound independence. In the North Caucasus, for example, Chechen President Ramzan Kadyrov initially refuses to cooperate, demanding recognition of his regime's sovereignty before any nuclear disarmament can take place. The INSTF must navigate these complex political landscapes, balancing diplomacy with the need to act decisively to prevent nuclear weapons from slipping out of control. As the INSTF gradually brings Russia's nuclear arsenal under control, the immediate threat of nuclear proliferation diminishes. However, the situation remains fragile. The world breathes a collective sigh of relief as the most dangerous weapons are secured, but the underlying instability in the region continues to pose a long-term challenge. The international community is left to grapple with the consequences of Russia's disintegration, knowing that while the nuclear crisis may be averted for now, The broader implications of this geopolitical shift will resonate for years to come. The successful control and decommissioning of Russia's nuclear arsenal serve as a testament to the power of international collaboration in the face of global threats. Yet it also underscores the precarious nature of global security in a world where even the most powerful nations can find themselves on the brink of collapse. The coming disintegration of the Russian Federation highlights the delicate balance of power in a world where even the most seemingly stable nations can face existential threats. As global powers navigate this new reality, the lessons learned from the disintegration of Russia and the efforts to secure its nuclear arsenal will serve as a stark reminder of the enduring need for vigilance, cooperation, and foresight in the pursuit of global peace and security